So I am Justin. I am the Master of Ceremonies today for our April 2025 Roundtable panel discussion. We're going to be talking about future-proofing talent acquisition, our careers in talent acquisition, how we're going to find, develop new talent. We've got an incredible panel with us today. So let's go around the horn, and I'm going to start to this way on my screen. Allison, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us where you're calling from, what you're up to, and what you're most excited to talk about today.
Ooh, all right. Well, I am in St. Louis, Missouri today, and I am super excited to talk about how we develop the future talent of TA.
And yeah, sorry, and you're currently a partner at Glow Connective.
That's
What's
correct.
yeah?
So what do we do?
Yeah, what do you do? What
do you do? Yeah. So at Glow, we really work with businesses to help them like really design human-centered ways of working. We usually come in during some sort of business transformation or there's some growth stagnation, and we come in and help them really focus on the whole human and how that can help grow their business.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Allison. Katrina, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You just missed the dog shuffle, so if I suddenly disappear, that's what's going on. I'm coming to you in the evening from London in UK, but the accent's Australian, just to confuse you. I run a business where I spend most of my time encouraging talent acquisition and hiring managers to speak to each other, like communicate. But I'm probably best known as the author of the Robot Proof Recruiter, shameless plug. And last year I published this one, which is actually for your hiring managers, Reboot Hiring. So if you can't make the case for talent acquisition and being human, which Alison will love, hand them that. It's bright yellow, can't miss it. It really makes the case for all of that. I do a lot of speaking, a lot of workshops, a lot of butting heads together, basically. I'm really underselling myself, but I've been in the recruitment industry for about 22 years. I've seen everything, including the latest AI fad. Seen it all the fads.
Love it. Well,
that was the worst description I've ever given of myself. Very unprofessional.
Quite okay.
It's 6 o'clock somewhere, Katrina, so don't worry.
Here, it's 6:04. I'll go back to my tea. Hey, Jerry.
Oh, we got Jerry Crispin in the house, the one, the only, the GOAT.
Yes.
I'm Justin. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at JobSync. We are a software platform for companies that hire a lot of people to do that more efficiently and at a better ROI. You can learn more about us at jobsync.com, which there's a nice little button there for you to click on. But don't do that quite yet. We've got a great show for you. And joining me is Alex Murphy, our CEO and founder. So we're going to take this approach that we took with our last couple roundtables, which is really leaning in on the questions that the community is asking us. I think like for us to move forward as a community, we need to have an open dialogue. We need to be discussing these things in public and trying to work through the ideas, the strategies, and the tactics to move forward. So with that, I think I want to start with a question that we kind of talked about a little bit as we were putting this thing together, which is let's just think about the broader picture right now, right? And I think in the broader picture, globally, especially here in the United States, but globally, really comes down to three things. There's a change in the labor market. There is a explosion of artificial intelligence and what it can and can't do and how that will impact jobs and how it won't. And then there's this like really intense view of like how to do more with less. There's a unsanctioned government agency that I'm not going to say by name that we have here in the States that's been.
Thank you. I'll be allowed back in the country.
It might resemble the thing sitting underneath of Katrina's feet.
Yeah. To use a
I've moved him, Alex. It's going to confuse you.
Yeah, to use a curb your enthusiasm term, it's been foisted upon us. But in reality, this creates like a very sort of complicated and complex milieu in which we kind of have to operate here. So I'm gonna start with you, Allison. Like from your seat at Glow Connective, you're working with a lot of different companies. Like, what are some of the major ways that these trends are bubbling up? What are the questions you guys are being asked, and what are you kind of seeing talent acquisition teams deal with?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting when we think about talent in general. So, what do you need? Why do you need it? What's next? I mean, how many years? I mean, Katrina and I have probably been talking about the future of talent since we were in elementary school, right? It's like everyone talks about what's the future of talent. Well, we need leaders or hiring managers to be thinking from a future oriented state. And they often don't. They are focused on like myopically, what's in front of me, what's my strategic initiative, what's my plan that I have to execute that I'm going to be bonused against, right? So we've got to really, as TA leaders, partner with those individuals and be the future thinkers for them, because TA leaders see the market better than anybody. We know the talent that's out there. We know what's happening. We're having the conversations outside of the organization. And so I really think leveraging that level of expertise and those relationships and kind of serving as that guide for your internal leaders can really like keep you moving in the right direction. I hate the seat at the table reference, but it does, make you a valuable partner that is sought after. And that's what you want to be as a TA person. Because what do we hate? We hate being brought in at the end of the game when they're like, we got to find this person. We got to find him yesterday. We're behind in this, that, and the other. And we're like, if you had just had a conversation with me when you were thinking about this, we could have proactively sourced for you. So
Yeah.
What's when you think about that seat on the table thing, Allison? What is the why is that bad or good? Like, what is it that rubs you the wrong way? Let's start with that about seat at the table statement.
I think that I'm just tired, especially as a woman, of hearing it.
Yeah.
Like I'm just tired of it. It's like it's over, like it's played out. And instead of like, I don't want to talk about whether I need a seat at the table or if I should be at the table. I just want to go do and execute and be the leader and be the resource and be in it. I don't want to have to justify my existence there. I have no, to me, I don't think there's any more time for that. It's just time to get shit done.
I think
I love that.
TA is already just trying to justify their existence, let alone their existence at the table. I mean, going on from what Allison just said, sometimes you just can't even get a manager to meet you for the job brief, intake, recruitment alignment meeting, whatever you would like to call it. You know that thing at the beginning of the process that breaks the process if it's not happened? That thing, my entire books are about. But it's like if talent acquisition hadn't been through I'm allowed to swear. You told me. No, I can say dumpster fire. That translates. I'll say dumpster fire. They've been through in the 20s, and they've gone from almost 2019, where they were kind of respected and were getting this. This is what talent acquisition does. We're the people that hire the people and decide the fate of your company. And there was respect. That has gone. Like it's just, I'm grossly generalizing, but in most companies it's gone because they've been fired, rehired, fired and kind of rehired, and then AI's come along and now it's do more with less, and they can't even get the beginning, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, right. And if they could just have that conversation, they could start doing that stuff Allison was just saying. Can we help you look forward? Can we come into the process earlier? Can we show you all this data that we have? We know the market. Can you listen to us? But there's a disconnect and a disrespect at the moment. I don't quite know how it's going to be fixed either. Going back to Allison's, we've been talking about this for several decades.
It's super interesting, right? Like we were working with a leader recently who was talking about all these amazing people initiatives that you would have your SVP of HR, in a smaller size organization where talent is just folded in, right? You would have that individual at the table, and they were working on like solving all these problems, and they had this really good person. And we said, hey, you have this really good person on your team who is an expert in the things that you're super excited about regarding your people. What if we invited her to this strategic conversation? And it was like mind blowing. It's always so simple. But we just have to make sure that we have advocates all around the organization who are saying those things, like why don't we bring TA in now?
Actually, James Ellis shared a post recently on LinkedIn which said it beautifully. A company will celebrate the salesperson that's done really well, or the accountant that saved all the money, or whatever. It's like, hello, who hired that person? Oh, it was that person in talent acquisition, HR, whatever you'd like to call, however they fall. That's the person that brought them in. So why don't we celebrate them as well? But then I also think as a function, anyone working in TA or HR doesn't speak up and go, oh, I hired them. Hello, remember me?
Yeah, the humility of TA, right? Leah on our team will commonly talk about how marketers lay claim, Justin, shut your ears. They will lay claim for every sale that happens, right? Like even if it's a year after the lead was generated. Yep, I got that lead a year ago, and that's why they bought today. But TA folks completely miss the whole game about all of the breakthrough things that happen are a function of having hired that person.
I think in this market where they're so scared to lose their job, like when mate just told me she's lost her job, she's in Canada, I'm like, oh God, like it'll be months potentially before she gets another job. So they're so scared to get tipped out that they're often not wanting to rock the boat, but actually blowing their own trumpet would probably help them stay. But there's and I'd also grossly generalize that most TA and HR are female, and we don't tend to do it quite so much. Mind you, marketers are female. I'm grossly generalizing here. Jerry will correct me in a minute. Are most marketers female or male? Maybe we need to go and learn from some. I'm just like cut that Ed out. I'm going to stop talking. Shut up, Katrina.
That's the beautiful thing about live is it's already history. So there's
Katrina's
nothing to worry about.
Sexism has just gone out out live.
Well, so
I think the point about not trumpeting is a big one though, because the reality is it's not gloating or saying something that isn't factually true. It's humility. And I think when you're in TA, this is my observation of various folks in the market, is you have to be very versatile to think about, I need to hire a salesperson over here and a product person over there and an ops person over there. And you kind of are empathetic. And so you don't like dive in and just take their glory for what they're doing. You celebrate their glory. And that's a very different position. And that I think the people that excel at TA almost by default have to have that high empathy, gene, and thus don't go walking around showing how much value they've created.
Yeah, I want to challenge that for a minute, though, because here's the thing, right? We talk about what skills do people need to be really successful in the future, and so we always hear like the future of talent, the future of TA. What skills should we be working on? Storytelling, practiced intentional storytelling, and what's amazing is TA folks really are amazing at this externally to clients. And so it's about practicing your own internal story, because TA leaders are often really emotionally attuned, right? You have to be able to you got to read the room, not just the dashboard, right? So developing your own story and your own narrative that you can share internally. Like if there was one skill that I would tell anyone today, really in any role, but especially in TA, is practiced intentional storytelling.
That's fantastic. How does that get manifested, Allison? Like what are some ways that actually gets implemented and proselytized and processized inside of an organization?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, it all goes to the leadership, right? So it depends on who your leader is and what they're doing. But you can lead from any role. You can lead from any level. So once you learn that storytelling is something that you need to continue to develop as a skill, just talking about it, about it with your peers, talking about it with, your team, helping your team develop in that way. Like sometimes it's not really about, it is always about managing up. We know that, but take care of your people and take care of yourself, and like it will rise, it will happen. I kind of the making it a process or making it something that's all throughout the organization. Those things take time, but you can start today.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be complicated. So going back to my favorite meeting that doesn't happen often enough, you're in the meeting and someone's really resisting. The manager doesn't want to meet you with you, and you could just be saying, "Hey, look, I get it. Justin used to feel like that, and what happened was he would spend 1,000 hours interviewing all the wrong people. So what we did was we spent more time at the beginning of the process, and now he's saving, and he only spends 100 hours or whatever." So my dog has just decided to join because I've got animated in my story. So it can be as simple as that. It's just in the conversation. And I think what happens is a lot of talent acquisition can't convince with the data. And I think it's because they're not telling the story with the data, and then a bit of emotion with it, and then they can convince. So yeah, totally agree. But it doesn't have to be. Sometimes I think we make these things a bit more complicated, but there's a loss of this learning. There's some exceptionally good directors of TA and heads of TA that aren't in work, going back to your do more with less thing, cost cutting, that aren't passing on this knowledge and aren't passing on the how to do it and how to storytell.
Allison, do you have a good structure on that storytelling that you think that you would like to share? And maybe part of it is what Katrina was just saying about the data, right? So part of the storytelling, how do you see data flowing into and being part of the stories that you want to have people be intentional about telling?
Oh, I get to give you my favorite answer in the world. So after 20 years in HR, I used to tell people this all the time. 2 words. It depends. Like it depends. It depends on the context. Like you can, you work, you got to also know your audience for your story, right? Because there are a ton of different frameworks that ChatGPT them, Google them, whatever. There are a ton of different frameworks. And I would actually recommend, and I know that we're going to talk a little bit about AI as we go through this, but having that fluency to be able to leverage AI for something like this, I think that it's 100% the right way to help yourself grow and learn in this area. Setting the context and saying, okay, I'm dealing with someone who is 100% numbers based, who doesn't see value in TA or what I'm doing. Getting some ideas for what some of the right frameworks might be for that person to really kind of deliver the right story for them. Because Justin, I feel like we're picking on you a lot today, but it's marketing, right? Like it's sharing an idea, it's communicating the idea, it's getting someone interested and getting them connected to the idea and wanting to lean in. So like thinking about how do I get that person to lean in? And how do you gather information on a person? Before we sit down with any CEOs, we try to learn as much as we can about that individual.
And it's not hard. You can see how people communicate with the way they write. Like I was joking about my brother messaging me. Hopefully he won't hear this. And he's extremely formal in the way he writes because he's a lot older. He's an accountant. He's very logic driven. So when I'm speaking to him, I'm a lot more formal and I use numbers and I use data. So if you were to put it into like NLP, where you've got the kinesthetic, auditory, digital, and I forgot what the last one is, visual, the most popular one. I have to change my words because I'm such a feel person and use logic words. But you can see it in how people write, how they write their LinkedIn profile. Really listen to your managers when they're talking to you, and you'll pick up what words they use, and then it's just mirroring it back to them. I wasn't expecting to go there, but we just went there.
No, I love it. It's really interesting, right? Because ultimately, I like this storytelling metaphor and train of thought here, because all of the cliches we talk about on having, the seat at the table metaphor, for example, it really is an art of storytelling, and it's understanding the language of your audience, right? So as marketers, we're sort of drilled into our head from the very beginning to kind of match the message to the audience. An employer brand, you match the message to the audience, but it's the exact same thing internally, right? So let's talk about efficiency and getting budget to do all these things, right? You have to talk to the CFO maybe to get these things approved. CFO is going to want a lot different of a pitch than the salesperson. Exactly. So go ahead, Katrina.
Sorry, before I lose my throat. I mean, like I wrote in Reboot Hiring, because I had to change that all into business speak. It's like, they don't care about employer branding. What the hell's that? Oh, it's your reputation on the line. Your personal reputation is going to get ruined. Oh, what do you mean? Oh, you're going to struggle to hire in the future. It's like translating our jargon into something that they understand that impacts the bottom line and their projects and their reputation. It's like sometimes I think we forget to switch the words, like we would when we're talking to anyone that has no idea about HR and recruiters. How we speak to them, we write. It's like we forget to do that with our own managers and leaders. It's like that would also help. And I think actually one of the things I found the most shocking while I was writing that was I went to my usual recruiters that I always grab quotes from. Tell me about your star hires. Tell me about the people you brought in that have really impacted the bottom line, that have done something amazing. One person replied with one person, and I'm going, oh, come on, guys. You should know 5 at any given time that you can rattle off when you're wanting budget. That you can go, I brought that person in there. Going back to the blowing the trumpet, I brought that person in. They created this impact on the bottom line. So, give me some funding. But if they keep saying that, they keep telling those stories all the time, then it just gets easier. I've just circled us back to that. I'm doing well here. I should never talk to anybody in the evening. Can we do one at 10 a.m. UK time next time? You can open up early.
Yeah. I'll have 7 cups of coffee and we're doing this the whole time. So I think this brings us to the next point in this discussion that I think we need to talk about, which is how the technological changes recently have kind of directly impacted, right? Like, and this is coming from someone in marketing who thinks about the future of marketing probably not too dissimilarly than what a recruiter would think about their profession, where it's like, if I meet somebody who's a freshman in college and thinking about majoring in marketing, there's part of me that's like, sure you want to do that?
Sure, you don't want to be a plasterer. We're really short at those.
Yeah, I mean, yes, right? Like electrician's an awesome career choice right now. So let's talk about this. I'm gonna the exact words of one of our audience members who asked this question. And if you made it here today, I would love it if you could let me know if this was yours. Let me find it really quick to here we go. It was, how long until Terminator 4?
Sorry, did I just snort?
You did snort.
Okay.
That's all right.
Sorry, I'm not supposed to jump in first, am I? Alison, can I go?
Please go.
You literally wrote a book called The Robot Proof Recruiter.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think it's
I believe somebody's written a review that it's too woke and liberal and something else. But anyway, moving on. I was working in the National Australia Bank several decades ago when I kind of fell into that, when I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And they brought in the teller machine. And the engineer was really lovely. He goes, you won't have a job soon. But there are still tellers, cashiers, those people in the bank. I know you've got a different word for it. They're still there for a cash transaction. And every single time, well, and the same in the supermarket. Here they've got the self-checkout, but there's still people in the supermarket to help you with your groceries. Now, those groceries and that cash doesn't have any say in where it goes. You pick up a tin of beans, it's going out the door with you. It has no choice. And we're trying to put people through a process that takes, Alison said it earlier, that high empathy. We've got to understand what they're not saying. We've got to persuade them and woo them and pull them through a process. And everyone keeps going, let's automate it end to end. And I'm just like, it's not possible. These are people's lives and livelihoods we're dealing with here. It's just never going to happen. Are there teams reducing in size internally because of technology? Absolutely. But there will always be people to recruit people. There will never not be, because I can't see us going, yeah, sure, here, robot. I mean, go to recruiting hell on Reddit, my favorite source of everything, and read what people think of AI interviews and AI calls. And, why are we doing that to other people? Like, let's leave that bit and use the technology as a support to make it better, make it more transparent. People would love that. If anyone happens to be working at Workday, everyone would like one account to log in on, just by the way, just in case anyone's tuned in from there. These things are written, like how it could be better is written in the reviews and the comments. So I just go about lives and livelihoods. This takes human skills to get a human through the process, and the tech should stay firmly in a supporting role. So, but I'm biased. I did write the Robot Proof Recruiter.
Yeah, and well, it's kind of interesting, right? We just published a pulse survey that we did with folks in the job market here in the United States, and 2/3 of them, of the people we surveyed, were either indifferent or actively disliked using chatbots in the recruiting process, right?
Okay.
People are 60% likely to bail on an application if they're presented with a login screen. So like
Workday. Oh, sorry. I've got to stop saying that.
They're not the only ones, right? But like there's this, I think it's chatbots are squarely in the AI, well, that's debatable in the bot target, but the applicant tracking systems insisting on a login, both of these are technology getting in the way of human interaction.
Yeah.
Right? None of this is good. Right. Ultimately, you want the best possible. Right. You want the best possible people to see your brand, interact with it, apply for a job, and succeed. Allison, what are you seeing in your work as you're talking to different companies, different leaders? Like, what is the temperature check on the AI-ification of the profession?
So you've heard me say this probably 1,000 times.
It depends.
No, I haven't.
I mean, you've heard that a lot, but it's people, process, and then technology. Like,
yes,
you start with the people, you go through the process, and then like you don't take the technology and shove it in front of the people and try to force them to reconstitute their process based on something that a technologist dreamed up. Right? Like, please don't. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. I think it's really like technology is a tool, and we should leverage it where appropriate.
Like we are now, to have a people conversation.
Now. Exactly. And what are we doing? We're connecting human beings.
Yep.
Right? To learn and grow and align and, spark interest and curiosity and growth and all of those amazing things. And that's what we should do. And I think that there are a lot of leaders who, we get into a room and we're helping them with larger strategic, growth initiatives for their entire organization. But we've had a couple of C-suite leaders who are like, yeah, we got to redo our whole tech stack. And I'm like, buddy, you don't even know what you're doing yet. So until you know what you're doing, please don't invest $1 million, $200,000, whatever it is, right, in tech until you understand what you're really trying to do. I'm a huge technology fan. Justin, you know that. I love it. I think it is amazing. I think it can really help free us up to do the work that we've always said we wanted to do, which is connecting more with humans, building more relationships, gardening, right? So as a talent person, you should always be curating your garden of relationships and nurturing it and not, just waiting for a requisition to come in. But so it's a tool.
So
yeah,
Allison,
think you're so right. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Allison, there's something you said in there that I want to double click on a little bit, which is something that Alex, I think I jokingly said this to you at might have been Workday, might have been HR Tech, where you get this like 10, 12 years ago, there was a mandate for digital transformation. We have to digital transformation. What does that mean? I don't know. We need to do it. Like I paid McKinsey $650,000 to make a 30-page deck to tell me I need to digitally transform. So let's rip out whatever and, go to the cloud. And there's a similar thing happening with AI right now where people just like think it's a way to tack on a few percentage points in stock price growth and just say, we need to rip out the tech stack and go AI native. Well, what does that mean? I don't know. You figure that out, right? My question to you is, what do you see as the impetus for that? Is it leadership missing plan and looking for some sort of miracle cure? Is it cutting? Yeah. Is it doing more with less? Like, do you think that's all it is?
Oh, sorry, Alison, you're meant to be answering that.
No, this is a team effort between the two of us. It's we can do it. It's both. Yeah.
Can I just have a minor rant with what's going on at the moment? Like, don't you feel like yes, Banjo, the human, sorry, he's now like standing on my desk. He might jump off. No, he might not. As a human species, we're like burning ourselves out with this do more with less. And it's like, it's all about corporate greed and profit margins. And this can't continue. It's just, it just can't. And that's what it's coming from. So the board is pressuring the C-suite. So the C-suite's pressuring all its people, and everybody is just do more with less, do more with less. So, yeah. And now we've got AI as the savior, and it's like it's an AI tool that's built on OpenAI that's full of bias, but let's introduce that to do all our sourcing because it's perfect and there'll be no bias. And it's like, I'm sorry, what? And it's just noise, pressure. Our rant is over.
No, sorry. your rant
to do that.
Beautiful. But I want to plus one your rant. I want to plus one your rant, and then I want to add. That it's not all just about cost cutting. It's honestly about individual. So I don't know who gave the interview, but there's some amazing famous leader who was being interviewed, and his message was, if you look around the room, the people that are in charge are oftentimes, they just believe that they should be there. They don't necessarily know, right? So oftentimes I think leaders hear something about AI or whatever the trend of the year, whatever's in HBR, whatever Gartner's preaching, like they hear something, it's whatever's at a conference, and the next thing they know, they're like, this has got to be all over our strategic plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Well, because the board's going to hear about it and everyone's talking about it, and so we must be missing out. And it's to me, sometimes it's like, it's a lack of true like wisdom and depth. Just kind of jumping on a bandwagon. Or maybe it's a Hail Mary because we don't know what's happening in their particular business, right? It's dependent thing. And sometimes they're really passionate about it and they want to do it. So, who knows?
And I think this is where TA needs to test every product, and make sure that they understand what's really going on. There is a lot of, and I talk about this in the Robot Proof Recruiter, and that's before the AI buzzword bingo hit, because it came out in 2022. Make sure the technology has been created either by recruiters or with recruiter input. Not a developer was having a bad day and has decided they can fix recruitment. Here's the tool. Make sure they understand the job. So learn that and then really get into the AI and really understand, what is true here? What is it really doing? Can I see how the algorithms are created? Can I see all of behind the scenes? Show me behind the scenes. I need to understand this because I'm recruiting people. I don't want to be introducing problems. And I think that's where the more knowledgeable TA is. If they spent half an hour a week just learning some of these tools, then they could have a much more confident conversation when they get the pressure from on higher to solve everything with AI. Well, hang on. Just a second.
And approach it with curiosity, right? Not only approach what's happening in the market, but approach what's happening with the leader. Because you don't know. So don't make an assumption that they just want to cut your entire team. Like, that's another way to demonstrate that you're a strategic partner. You're seeking to understand what's happening in the business and the why. And,
Yeah.
I love to ask. I like to ask why, like a 3-year-old, like, and until you really get down to the root cause. Why are we doing?
I think some TA are too scared to do that, though.
For sure.
I don't think they have the job security in this current market to do that, sadly.
Alex,
so I think if they bring data to the conversation and go a little bit deeper than the headlines, then that's what can help be constructive, right? Because like what Allison's saying about, get to the root cause, it makes me think about, really the media market right now has a whole lot of people that are just lemmings, kind of following the herd,
Yeah.
right? So, Jamie
Dimon
Dimon's interview, or not interview, but his town hall or whatever that got caught on audio, where he's talking about return to office and these people that are slacking off on Zoom. And so I went and looked at the data, and like Chase has the best performing, per employee revenue and profitability that it's ever had, ever. So I'm not sure what the objective is of going back to the office. Maybe it's to have less revenue per employee, or maybe it's just to stroke
Fewer
the little
women.
ego.
Oh, sorry.
And I was just going to say, like, it's to keep up with other people saying return to office is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right. And this is where a lot of this efficiency, do more with less crap shows up. So, Twitter, bought by Musk, identified as move fast, break stuff. I guess just broken is better. And so we should go and chase efficiency because we had somebody that can decimate the value of a media organization. I don't like that's not winning. So start with why. Like, why are you doing the things that you are trying to do? Is where is where every one of these stories needs to begin.
Yeah.
Well, I think
I love Steve's comment there. What problem are we trying to solve? Sorry, I just changed what you said, but that, what's that? What's your aim with that? I guess maybe that might be easier than, I think Alison and I would have no problem going, why? But I think some of them might be more like, so, what's behind that? Tell me more. Like, really just, but I do also think there's a lack of curiosity. Sorry, Alison, I interrupted you.
No. You're brilliant. I think that the other piece is, like, from a data perspective, I think talent acquisition professionals also have an extreme desire for efficiency, right? It's not a bad word for us. It's about efficiency and effectiveness. So when we come to the table and we talk about data, we need to be able to say, efficiency, here's where it is. Great. Here's the effectiveness. And here's where, by doing X, Y, or Z, we're going to actually reduce efficiency, or we're going to introduce risk, or we're going to introduce defects, or pick a term. But the group, we should never talk about efficiency without talking about effectiveness.
Love that.
So, Alison, I'm really curious to kind of zoom in on this a little. So, in your former life, you were leading talent for all the breweries in North America for Anheuser-Busch. That's like scale that like very few people in their careers get to when it comes to like managing talent, right? So you had a ton of data that you could put together whenever you went to, the C-suite for whatever initiative that at the Anheuser-Busch level, right? What are some lessons you learned during that period, and then in the subsequent years in your consulting work and others that you could like maybe distill down to someone who maybe doesn't have the luxury of an Anheuser-Busch level like data set to deal with, to maybe like get started, or even in like the high volume sort of like enterprise world? What were some like key takeaways on getting started with that? And like, what's that deck look like, I guess, to sort of make the maximum impact in that storytelling? Yeah.
So it sounds like oftentimes these are emerging leaders, or you're talking about something that's emerging, right? I mean, when you're asking for something, usually it's something at the very beginning. And so it's all about what emerging data can you pull? What is it actually telling you?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's telling you that you're wrong, like sit with that for a minute and pivot and think about it, right? Like I think it's important for all of us to be open-minded and understand what the data is actually telling us. I think many of us later in our careers can make a data set, kind of tell you whatever, but when you're starting, right? Think about what the data is saying and build your story around it. And it goes back to the storytelling. What am I trying to do? What is the person that I'm talking to? What do they want?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, for me, I was always really aware of what our organizational goals were, what our stretch goals were, what our targets were. What were we trying to achieve? What was the problem? What problem are you trying to solve is like my favorite question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is the problem that's going on? And then what story can I tell? And how can I advocate for what I'm looking to do and explain it? And, I didn't get yes all the time, believe it or not. I got yes like 95% of the time. But 5% of the time, I got told no, right? And I had to pull back, and I would throw a personal like tantrum and rant and be upset behind closed doors. But then I'd have to think, okay, well, that it was a no today. What can I learn from this? What information did I get from that conversation that can help me build a better solution and go back? You always got to go back.
Don't you feel like what you have talked about is being curious, using critical thinking, self-reflection, like being able to be rejected? That sounds sad, doesn't it? But be rejected and then go, okay, what's the lesson in that rejection? Like, what have I learned from that no? And it's like this is all human. This is all the stuff that I think is lacking. Mind you, going back to that back in the office thing, I do think that as a Gen X, sometimes we need to go into the office to pass this stuff on, at least some of the time, a couple of days a week, kind of. I do feel for the 20 somethings coming through, because they learn it by osmosis, by overhearing conversations. But I think what you just demonstrated there, Alison, is more than the storytelling. It's really that curiosity, critical thinking. I mean, they're trying not to even teach that now at school, for example, or at university. Critical thinking, they want to get rid of that. But I think we're going to need all of that even more. Like, why does the data show that when I thought it would show that? What's that about? Like, and just.
Well, and none of us have ever wanted to hire anyone on our teams that didn't have that skill, right? It's my number one skill.
There is a chronic lack of curiosity, though, in TA. I know that sounds odd. We ask questions all day, but there's a lack of that. It's weird.
Yeah, and
I don't know why I find that. Maybe because people fall into recruitment, they don't choose it. Maybe.
All about seeking to understand, right? And seeking to understand the individual. I mean, we at Glow, we leverage the Enneagram and personality typing to understand where someone's coming from and what speaks to them and why. And it helps us to help coach leaders at a variety of levels on communication styles and preferences and how to connect and become more emotionally attuned. To really turn into that high performing team, you have to have that emotional attunement. And so, very nice. All right. 7 weeks too. That makes sense.
Okay. No idea what that means. It is something like 82% of managers in the UK are accidental managers. So they've had no leadership and development at all. So that's another issue as well. So
does that
blind?
Go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, Katrina, what you just put your finger on is the lack of intentionality. In all sorts of different arenas, right? What you said earlier, people fall into TA or fall into recruiting, or they are an accidental manager. I think if we get back to if we get, focused on the future proofing the profession, it's really about establishing what are the intentional steps, right? And I think, Alison, you were saying about being intentional about your storytelling, right? What are the intentional steps to take around, what it means to go out and find talent, right? The whole talent construct, I think, started from is it the McKinsey book, or no, it's the Gallup book, right? First break all the rules. where they talked about assessing and defining the talent that you need to have in your organization. And it's like, well, what does it mean to acquire talent? Which is, it's hiring people that have the critical thinking skills and thinking about foundation and building with intentionality.
But it goes, I'm going to take it back. It goes back to that meeting, like back to the beginning of the process. You know, a lot of recruiters start at the job description because they've worked in staffing or agency. They haven't even started learning that. And then they come in house and here's the manager to have a conversation with, and they kind of go down a checklist. And, you know, I always quote, I don't know if he's here, Jerry knows him as well, Steve Levy. And I always say his first question to managers is, how will you know at the end of 12 months you've hired the right person? So no, Alison talked about this beginning, take people forward, you know, looking forward. And then it's like, by asking a question like that, they're going to say human skills. They're going to say stuff they haven't written. They've written a list of duties down on their job description. And it's that.
Because they know Microsoft Word and they can make a spreadsheet.
or worse, they've gone to ChatGPT, which I wish they wouldn't because it uses a lot of water. And they've sorry, I should say water, so people understand me. Not water, like
I follow.
Okay, yeah, I know, but just for anyone else in the chat, I know sometimes the Australian gets away from me. But the you know, they'll type in like, I need a Java developer, give me a job description. It's like, but that's not what you need. You need somebody client facing. You need someone that does, you know, it's that, and that's where. Thanks, Alex. Where's the worst? If it's got a TER in it, we just use a DO.
I want to like. I have an interesting question for you both, Allison and Katrina, and this just coming up kind of as we're sitting here talking.
I
know, right? Thinking about the future of the profession, and I think this is like this is a topic we need to discuss as a community because it's for the first time in our lifetimes, it's much easier to see. Like I feel how the guy that made horseshoes felt the first time a car drove past his house, right? Like, that's where we're at. We can debate AI all day long, but that's the truth. So if we think about the future of the profession, and you have someone falls into recruiting, maybe they've got a good sales personality, they've got all the things that make a good recruiter, and they become like, they fall into it, 24 years old, 25, whatever it is. Like, what are the 2 or 3 things that you would tell them? Focus on this now. And we're kind of recapping a little bit of what we talked about here, but what are the 2 or 3 things that you would say, focus on this now, and in 20 years, the world's going to be your oyster? Allison, you go first.
I need 2. Jesus. Go, Allison. Allison, you can go first, and that gives me time to think.
Okay. I mean, I think technical skills will matter, but they're no longer the differentiator, right? To just start. So to me, I think it's how you handle ambiguity, how you build trust, and then how you adapt with intention.
So a lot of soft skills.
If you learn how to do those 3 things, anything else you can learn. Anything else you can learn. Whatever system it is, you can learn it. You can learn all of those things, unless you're like my doctor, right? Like there are certain things that I really do think, require a degree of skill and technical ability that can't just be off the cuff here. But
okay, what were they again?
Just want to make sure. They are handling ambiguity. Building trust. And adapting with intention.
Okay, and then we just talked about that. Because the adapting. I mean, I find it really hilarious because there's a lot of 50-somethings at the moment that can't get into work. There's this massive ageism going on by TA to TA as well, but and it's like, oh, you guys aren't adaptable, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like the change in my lifetime with technology, like I came out of school and computers were like barely coming in as I was leaving, and I was using a typewriter. Like, give me a break. But we've had to adapt and evolve and do all of that stuff. What I would add to that is that critical thinking. That's different, isn't it? Because that will help you build the trust, and that's something that the tool can't do. Like AI can't do it, and I think it's quite an art. And that's obviously the curiosity and all that kind of stuff, and actively listening to people. Oh, Alison took a pause. What was that about? Oh, she hesitated. What was that? It's that reading between the lines. But oh my gosh, is there a lack of resilience? This is a really hard job. We reject the vast majority of the people that we talk to. And the people are avoiding doing that, which is really bad because it is something like 87% of applicants, people get down or depressed if they get ghosted. So we're not correlating how we're treating people, we're forgetting the human side. And that, I think, comes back to the resilience. There's a fear to reject people because it's not a nice thing to do, and that's going to impact me. So I think bucket loads of resilience. And that will help with the tough conversations, with selling, storytelling, with the ambiguity and everything. You've just got to keep bouncing back. And actually, as Alison demonstrated earlier, when she said the no, she'd go and close the doors, have a tantrum, and then she'd go, right, now I haven't got my way, put my big girl pants on, right, what have I learned so that I can go back and get what I want? And it's that's resilience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the self-awareness of learning that emotion is real and we all have it, and we're going to have positive emotions and we're going to have negative emotions. And then how to manage it, right?
Yeah. And it's not easy. And anyone that knows me knows I've been on a personal journey. In fact, my memoir is coming out next month, which is about my healing journey of overcoming child abuse. And I was incapable of doing the stuff I'm now saying until I healed my stuff. So, there's a lot of us that need to go and deal with stuff as well. And because the personal leaches into the work. But if work is going to become more tech focused and not dealing with our stuff is going to stop us and hold us back. I can't recommend enough that, if you heal your stuff, then it's fine. People can say no to you and you're like, okay, what have I learned? Rather than, which is what I used to do most unpleasantly.
It's so what I'm hearing here, and I think this is really important. Like, sometimes when you hear people talk about soft skill development, right? They're just like, whatever. But you can actually develop these things, practice these things. There is it does make a difference if everyone in your organization that you deal with takes an Enneagram and you read about them and you learn, oh, this person tends to think this way and present that way, and this is what this person values. Like, it just makes all of this stuff infinitely easier. And to your point about the tech kind of becoming less relevant, I find that fascinating. So a friend of the pod, if you will, Andrew Lewis, anybody in recruiting who's on LinkedIn, I highly recommend you follow Andrew, because he's one of the few that only talks about recruiting from a recruiter's perspective, not job seeker perspective. He posted something the other day that I thought was fascinating, which is just like a collection of prompts he uses to generate the Boolean searches that he throws into LinkedIn or whatever it is, right? And I distinctly remember, Allison, you and I last year, year and a half ago, whenever it was, being at one of the candy events and overhearing someone at my table talking about they're telling someone how to do a Boolean search for something. And it's like, that is a skill this person had that is kind of obviated now, because you can just, if just type in natural language what you want, you'll get the result to go then. Right. So the technology makes this easier.
Should make it easier.
What's that? Certain things
should make it easier, but it depends what you're using. And I would still say I have concerns about some of the sourcing tools because of what they're built on and the lack of transparency in the algorithms behind. And I think that that recent example of everyone going, I clearly don't use it, can you tell? But ChatGPT build me a picture of what I look like based on everything you know about me, and my female PhD friend, it drew a male. And she's going, why did you draw a male? Well, most in your profession are men. And you're going, great. So anyone who's using the tool without using the critical thinking and everything we're talking about will get this big list of male results and go, well, that's intriguing.
Yeah.
If they're not using it, they wouldn't. They'd just go, oh, well, I'll put those candidates through.
That's a great point. That is a great point. Alex, you looked like you were getting ready to say something. Or did I miss?
Well, just building on that comment, it's like, the AI scoring tools and the AI matching tools, and what are you matching for? And it's shocking. It's just, I know this is going to make you guys fall over, but the AI matching tools do a brilliant job of matching the AI written resumes and AI written CVs. I know it's crazy, right? Like you as a job seeker ask the AI to rewrite your resume to be great for a job, and so then therefore you rise up to the top. And nobody's building a method to address and solve it. They just kind of
But
nod their head.
go back to the beginning. The beginning's broken. It doesn't matter how great the parsing technology is. You're matching a really shit job description with a really shit resume. I'm talking to the US. Like, nobody's fixing these. I'm trying to fix this one. And it's just like, if they just started with a great job description, it would be much, much better. And then they would hopefully get fewer applicants. They could use it to get people to deselect, and then you wouldn't have to worry about all your matching tools and your parsing. Sorry.
And this goes, no, you're fine. It just parsing. I follow you. If you start talking about the metal that makes soda cans, that's when I think the pronunciation will confuse more.
Aluminium.
There it is. The
aluminum.
Much
you know, it's Adidas, not Adidas. I've got a whole list of them.
Hey, we bastardized the Queen's English worse than anybody.
You also put your dates backwards, and you're the only country in the entire world that does that. But hey ho,
do what we can. I think that the key here for me though is it really does come back to first principles. I love the idea of like actively investing in these soft skills to understand ambiguity, build trust, learn how to even if there is Workday or whatever puts all the buttons in front of you in the world to click and generate a job description, still understand the art and science of writing a job description. Talk to the hiring managers, bring all the data together and speak to your audience in a way that they understand to build your point, build your consensus. We have just a minute left, and I want to end on two things for each of our panelists, except for you, Alex. Actually, no, Alex, you can do it too. That is, what's the one piece of advice you would give to a current senior leader, not somebody getting started in TA, but somebody that is sitting in the captain's seat and thinking about
so not in TA, this is
in TA,
right? Yep.
In TA, but not a 24-year-old. We're talking about the current VP,
the proper ones. Yeah.
Yep. And where can people go to find you?
Okay,
Katrina, you get to go first this time, and Allison gets extra thinking time.
I'm going to do a shameless plug because I earn about 75p every time somebody buys one of these. Buy this and put it on your C-suite's desk. Formula. That's a job for you. Make sure your baby recruiters read this one. I donated my royalties from this one, so I don't feel bad. But read, learn, talk. Just there's so much stuff you can do that doesn't cost anything if you've got budget concerns. And how can people find me? Oh my gosh, Google me. I'm everywhere. It's dreadful. Can't be missed.
For me, it's when I think about leaders, I think what I'm so worried about is burnout.
Yeah.
And so I would tell leaders it's about regenerative leadership. So don't burn out to perform. Understand how over time you can build out your capacity through support, aligned action, that type of thing. But it's your regenerative leadership. Don't burn yourself out. And I know it's super easy to say, harder to do. But it's really, really important because you can't lead if you're not able to be present.
And we missed that in your list, didn't we? Ambiguity, trust, adaptive, boundaries.
There you go. And you can find me at glow.connective.com. And we have a great weekly newsletter that my partner Whitney puts together with all of her brilliance that is really human focused and focuses on those soft skills. And I think it's a tremendous value to anybody.
Thank you so much. Alex, I know where you're going to tell people to find you, but what's you talk to a lot of senior TA folks, right? Like in our line of business, we talked to quite a few of them. What's something that's bubbled up to you?
I think use the tools. I think that there's so much mythology about what they can and what they
Cannot.
may be able to do in the future that is guiding people to think that it is going to get rid of people. And I mean, in the context of AI, there's a LinkedIn post today. The guy wrote a bunch of different statements about feelings versus facts, and he said the thing about AI is it doesn't have feelings. And when I read it, I'm like, that's completely inaccurate because all the AI is the average of the language model that it's analyzing. That language model consists of words written by humans with their feelings.
Mm.
And so you really don't get a feel for that until you start to actually use the tools. And so don't just read the headlines, go actually put your hands on the actual technology.
Actually try to apply for a job with the chatbot you have on your website.
Does
Use the
depend
tools.
what the job is, and
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, I am so grateful to everyone for taking some time with us today. Katrina, have a wonderful evening. Allison,
Thank
have a
you.
wonderful afternoon. And Alex, good morning. All over the world here at JobSync. We'll be back next month with a very special guest that I need to confirm before I share publicly, but it's going to be a good one. I will email out the recording to everybody along with all the links and relevant stuff to share from our panel. And until next month, thank you all so very much for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.